Business Application Studio. So can you see Business Application Studio? Okay. I have kind of already subscribed for this application. If you see the one subscription, yeah, this is also kind of misleading. If you see, it says it has 3 of them already available, but Singapore, ideally, this particular one is not allowing us for the, we can say, option. Microsoft Azure Singapore is not having an option of BAS. I don't know why. I mean, the trial account is undergoing many a change. One more thing many of the people would have already heard is, it is us who are using it outside of the SAP, but within the SAP trial account is also kind of blocked. It's dedicatedly full account that should be used. Okay, so that's a kind of a just kind of a knowledge perspective. But if you see, if I'm going in the dev system over here, Business Application Studio is not available. So let's just go with the trial. So Sayanthani, have you subscribed for the Business Application Studio?
No, Sumit, for
Okay. Do you mind sharing your screen?
yeah, sure.
Because I have subscribed, so I would like to at least just go one step, so at least we can have it, and maybe then I can take it over. I'll guide you. Don't worry.
Okay, okay. This whatever was available on free, I did that only.
No worries.
Just let me know if my screen is visible.
Yeah, it's visible. Perfect. So let's just say on your screen, now what we want is we want the Business Application Studio to be subscribed. So where I should be going, the service marketplace. That's the main place, right? So service marketplace should give me the, yeah. Can you go over there? So you do have the same 53. It means you are going with the Amazon Web Services base sub account. If you search
Yes.
for the Business Application Studio, perfect. Now, if in the Business Application Studio, either you can click on the top, or let's just say you can also go with the, yeah, triple dot. Perfect. So you also have subscribed for that.
Yeah, then I did. Yes, yes.
Yeah, no issues. So everyone, because sub Business Application Studio, ultimately it's a single step. Maybe any one of you can also confirm. If I click on create, it would just ask, okay, I will be using the CF and Cloud Foundry environment and the Business Application Studio. That's it. Create, and it would be subscribed for. Okay. Yeah, I'll just share my screen because I think we are on the same page. So let's just go over there. So I do have Business Application Studio. I have kind of subscribed for that. I have created it. So where you would be able to find it going forward in the instances and subscription, you would be able to search it as a, or let's just say find it as a subscription. So that is a difference. If you see in service marketplace, few things are available as a subscription, few things are available as an instance. Wherever we need a intervention by a runtime environment, Cloud Foundry, Kaima, Kubernetes, their instance would get generated. But wherever it would be a standalone application which would be helping us for some sort of new service generation, that would come as a subscription. So Business Application Studio is one of them. So here I do have a Business Application Studio. Once you create it, you would be find it over here like this. If I click over here, it would allow me, or let's just say it would take me to the login page of that particular Business Application Studio. By default, single sign-on would work. So it means if you have already logged into your account, you would find it over here. So I had generated one space, but forget about it. We would be going with this space generation also in the future. We would be generating one more dev space for our pursual from the scratch over here. Let's just say I'll be creating one more dev space. I'll just say create a dev space. If you see, these are all the dev space that you would be able to find over here. SAP Fiori, that is for UI application generation. The full stack cloud application. This full stack cloud application gives you a functionality of generation of a HANA application, UI5 application, all thing in a place. The HANA native application, this HANA native application mainly focused on the data cloud. So let's just say in our Cloud Foundry, we had to configure the SAP HANA database. So all the database centric processes or the database centric projects which are there that you would be able to do over here. It's suggestible that you try to split your work based on the kind of development you are doing. Definitely you all would be a full stack developer, but I'll suggest what you can do is rather than going with a full stack application also has a capability of generation of both the kind of application. Okay, it means you would be able to generate the UI application as well as the backend application using the single tool. If you see, the cap tool and everything would come by default, but in the same workspace, if you do have both, then it would become very hard to maintain. It's up to you. It's totally up to you. You can have the same project, or let's just say you can have both the project created in the same workspace. My personal choice, and I have seen people using like that they go with a backend service development as a part of HANA native application. Mobile based application is separate one that we would be going for, I guess, discussing. Fury application is something that people use for a UI application development. Okay, it has an additional extension to connect your application to the database, but try to follow UI based and backend based application development separately, because ultimately you are going to connect both of them via service interface. That is something that is going to happen. It doesn't matter whether they are in the same workspace or the separate one. SAP mobile application is development is mainly for a I can say native mobile application. Like for me to run a Fury application, what I'll need? I need a Fury environment. I would need a Fury launchpad or something where actually those application could be run. Native mobile application would need a Fury environment on the mobile, on which like we do have a normal application. Let's just say WhatsApp, Facebook, and anything, any sort of applications are there. Same way we can have a mobile application generation. So that is that sort of capabilities also BTP is carrying, mobile service application development. It also follows the Fury principles. Okay, let's just go with a HANA native. That is something we would be mainly focusing on as a part of today's session. So here we would have a basic HANA tools already available. The multi-target application we already discussed. We had already explored the HANA database explorer and everything. In case we want to go with CAP tools and everything, we can do that. Let's just also enable this. Depending on whether you would like to use it, we can use it. It's not hard and fast. I'll
Sumit,
just
just a moment. When you're saying SAP Fiori and SAP HANA native application, we have to create two different
depending on
dev
your choice.
spaces.
For my
Yeah,
personal
that's
choice is
uh,
huh.
so. If we create two different development spaces and select these options, then there will be two different boxes, two different spaces, right?
Right, correct. Like I used to have SAP Fiori, you found on my initial screen. But now
Yeah.
if I'm creating SAP HANA native application, and if I say HANA native space, I'll just create a dev space. If you
So
see,
you will be
I do
having
have this. Now,
mm,
if I want to start, or let's just say I want to work on my UI.
UI. Okay. So Fiori space you will be using.
Yeah, so I can, if you see, this is still a trial version. So ultimately, if you see, there are limitation. You are allowed on total 2 dev spaces, only one running at a time. But in case of a real one, you can have multiple running. So what you can do is you can work separately on a backend, work separately on a UI, and communicate.
And also, I see low code based full stack cloud application, and I don't see that mobile SAP mobile application in my account. So
Yeah.
again, a
So
subscription.
yeah. So in your real one, right? I have also seen
Yes.
that low code one. That's why I actually mentioned it over here, because I was not sure whether in trial they are giving it or not. So yeah, for the mobile based application, ideally either you need subscription. That is also one of the way. Another way, we have also done the mobile application development. What ideally happens is, for the mobile application, you would need environment. What it used to call. There is a proper SDK for mobile based to application development, which you would be able to use do in your SAP Web IDE. or let's just say business application studio anywhere. Whenever you are building that application, archive file would get generated and then you can directly upload it. That is the way that we followed earlier when we were doing the mobile application development. But for your answer, for the mobile application, um, I think it would be asking for a separate subscription. I'm not sure because the way we did it, we were not using the BS. Instead, we went with the SAP Web IDE. That had helped.
So Sumit, is it Cordova or just
Cordova, yeah, perfect.
right.
Thanks, man. Yeah, so for the mobile application, we used to use the Cordova SDK. I guess it was Cordova, kind of. There are plenty of blogs for around this on, I guess, net. But people, this is something that people ideally prefer. In I guess 2021, if I remember it correctly, it was down for around a 6 month or a year, right? Cordova plugins. Then in between, I guess afterwards they upgraded it, and I guess it's back again. In between, they had stopped it for some time.
Yeah, I was using it in
Yeah.
earlier actually. Nowadays not using.
Yeah, that's the thing. So, but yeah, for this, I feel it would be an additional subscription, but I have not explored that. So maybe I guess we can explore and we can, I guess, have that.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So for this HANA native application, this is my workspace. If you see, it's in running like this. If you see, these are trial version, and it doesn't. It's not only for the trial. In the real application world as well, you would find the dev space. If you are not using it for some time, you would find it in a mode of stopped. For you to actually use it, you have to always start it. Like start the workspace, and then you would be able to use it. Same way, if it's in a running mode, then only you would be able to launch it. I am not able to launch it over here. For me to launch it, I have to click over here in the HANA native space. And it would open a proper dedicated workspace. This dedicated workspace is nothing but your full development environment. Okay, your development environment, it is just getting open. So it's open, available for you to do any sort of development over here. So these are HANA native application environment, which is up and running over here. Now we would be going with a application development. So till now, anyone is having any question, any doubt?
See, sorry, maybe it is a repetitive question. When
No,
you
not.
came, SAP Fiori workspace is having only for UI applications
So,
development.
so
Now,
ultimately in the SAP Fiori workspace. So if you see while we were creating workspace, there were two things, few things which were there by default, which are dedicated for the, let's just say for native application as well. Few things were already selected, the database controls and everything. The UI component was there as an optional. You can choose it if you want, but dedicated the setting of this environment would be done in a way that it would support this native application in a good way. Same way for the Fiori as well. In the Fiori, all the tools those are relevant for Fiori application development would be selected by default. Additionally, you can also have the database integration. You can select those things on top of it if you want.
okay,
So that's
okay,
why you would
yeah,
find few things that I am selecting manually, checkbox.
yeah. Manually, see, you selected some few things manually,
Right,
right? Check boxes.
right.
Now, which means you can develop UI application in this platform also, in this space also.
Right. So it's like that. Let's just say I am at my home, and at my home I know everything which is familiar to me, which I have created according to what I need. So that would be for, let's just say, if I'm going with a Fury, the workspace would be in a way that everything would be more comfortable while Fury application development. On top of that, whatever you are adding would be add-ons, would be kind of a plugins. Okay, so for you to actually develop the UI application, go with a Fiori application tool that would have a more wizards and more template that would be easy to use for a UI application. On top of it, you can do that, but the base environment, base setup would be supporting UI application more. And in case you are doing both, you can go with a full stack development. People use that. That's my personal choice. I was just sharing that I ideally prefer both of them separately. And why I prefer it separately, let me also tell you that. Because let's just say if I'm in ABAP, because many of us has already gone through the ABAP path, we had ABAP at some or another point in our career. So in ABAP, what I usually have is I do have SE38. Let's just say I do have a report that I generated. Now I want to call this report from my another one. So if I'm creating another report over here, and if I'm writing a submit over here, I would be able to use it. But in case I want to use this, what is the prerequisite? This report should be activated.
Right, right.
Perfect. Now for me to have this report activated, what I'll do is I'll just do activate button. Now when it comes to a let's just say empty application, there is no term called activate. In terms of an application, we do have a workspace. This is our development environment in which we do have a repositories. Okay, so for example, I do have a my CAP project repository. Now I have to build my project. I have to deploy my project. And once I deploy it, it would generate an active running instance on the BTP. So if I do have this, then only I'll be able to use this. Now, what people misunderstood is if I do have a full stack environment, people ideally gets confused. They are saying, okay, I do have a CAP based project working fine, perfect. I have build it, it's working fine. They don't deploy it just to not intervene whatever is already running. They would start developing a UI application over here.
Romit, I have a question actually.
Uh-huh.
Do we have version management in empty application or not? Version management.
Yeah, we do have a version management, but it's in another way. So version management, it's not a web-based version management, transport version management. What we do have is, let's just say I am doing the development over here, like I'm doing a development for a report. Then whenever someone else tries to develop something, he would be his user task, subtask could be created in the same transport. Here, in this particular project, in this particular workspace, we currently are going with a local development. But if you see, as a part of the same course, we do have something called Git repo. In the Git repo, this is a public space. So whatever development I am doing, I'll be pushing it in the Git repo. So whenever someone else tries to do something, they would pull my copy and try to develop something on top of that. And there would be a main, or I can say master branch. They can push their change. So let's just say there is developer number one who is doing the development, developer number two who is doing the development, developer number one is doing the development. He wrote 5 lines of code. Here, an already available code on which they were writing, it was 50 lines of code already available. Afterwards, this developer two is also writing 6 lines of code. So, sorry, my bad. If this developer number one try to merge his changes, try to merge, it means try to push his change in the main branch so that it would be publicly available. He would find that, okay, no one's changes are there. His 5 line would be adjusted. Let's just say in file number one, he has done some change. Those would be adjusted. When this developer number two would try to push his change, he would ideally check whether someone else has actually done the change before I'm pushing my change, or let's just say by the time I complete my change. If yes, he should merge those. So in the Git we do have a concept of let's just say push, pull, fetch, merge, and whatever you are talking about the version management, just to ensure that we do have a right amount of version, or let's just say right version of the code already running, we do have a concept of pull request. Using a pull request only, we would be merging the changes. So these all the things are there that we would be learning as a part of the Git concept that we would be learning. One more thing, in a MTA, so this is a code version. What I mentioned is a version of a code. In a MTA, we do have a version of running application. We would be showing it to you. I'll show it to you. In the MTA, we do have a version. Let's just say you would have already observed, in case you are downloading anything from the Play Store, um, there would be a saying that, okay, the current, let's just say JDK. You can think of a JDK's version 1.8.123 was there already available. Now 1.11.123 is also available that you can use. So what is it? Some developer would have developed that sort of JDK. This JDK, whenever it was released, it was developed in a first release patch number 8 and release number something. This was the version. Afterward, its few changes actually went ahead, and let's just say after some time someone is releasing it, then someone would release with the functionality which are relevant to this. So this is a version which is maintained in the MTM. So there are two kind of version: a code version that we maintain using Git, and there is a application version that we maintain using MTA. So there are this kind of versions that we can maintain. In case of ABAP, it's a transport TR request TR versions. That is a separate one. That sort of concept we don't have over here, but we can still compare. Let's just say in ABAP, we do have a comparison of, let's just say, version number 4, version number 5. What are the code changes that has been done? In the Git, we can do the same way. We can do the code comparison. Does this answer your question? It would seems a bit of theory now because we have not gone through those topics, but I don't want to park your question. That's why I just answered. But whenever we would be going practically, you would have a bit of clear idea that what is this version management all about. Right, Safir?
Yes, right. Thank you for answering my question. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Now, so sorry, I was going to somewhere saying in the workspace, let's just say if it's a full stack, someone has done the CAP based development, his service is available, but locally, he has not deployed it. In the BTP, there is no running instance, or let's just say our old instance is running. And in the same workspace, we do have a capability that it also understands what is a UI. It understands the concept, it understands the syntax of UI. If someone is developing a UI project, he would be expecting that the project which I have generated over here would have a service and I would be able to use it or consume it over here. But that won't be the case because it's a local one. In in terms of let's just say cloud project, or let's just say project development that is done based on a repository, these two repository can't communicate internally. It's not that okay, SE38 would have a report, I would be activating that. So that activation is doing two things in a single go. It is doing build and deployment. Let's just say after activation you have done 50 odd line of change, 50 plus lines change after activation. Okay, now if you are going with the submit, which code version would get executed? It would just execute this activated version, right? The change which is there in inactive version won't be considered, and that is why this, just to avoid this confusion, I myself prefer that separate repository would be there. So I complete my work over here and then I would come over here. My personal flavor. Okay, it's up to you. Whatever you would like, you can go with that.
Okay.
Okay. Now, what we are going to start over here is we are having business application studio. Let's just start with a CAPM, cloud application programming model. CAPM, that is something we would be starting with. And over here, let's just say, okay, what is it? Okay, we just have the 5 bullet points. We would be going with it. So the CAPM, cloud application programming model. Wow, I have not changed the title. Okay, what is CAPM? Sorry. Yeah. So what is CAPM? Cloud application programming model is ultimately framework of libraries built-in tools for rapid application development on BTP. Perfect. So it means like we do have a SEGWY, like we do have a CDS, a RAP for the backend service development. Same sort of backend service development on the cloud. If I want to do, I would be able to do that using CAPM. In terms of a layman language, forget about the definition. When it comes to a library, it can have, let's just say for me to use CAPM. Okay, what are the building blocks of CAPM? I'll just try to explain you what is a CAPM project actually built on top of. So this is my full CAPM project. in CAPM, we do have multiple blocks. First, let's just say database is there. My application server, or let's just say service is there. That is what it is called. So this is my data model. This is my service. My ultimate purpose of using CAPM project is to generate a backend service so that UI application can get the required functionality for the UI application to actually work. Now, so it means if I do have a UI application running over here, which is needing a service. So let's just say I want an employee master. I want an employee registry. This service should have the list of employee. So it means I can expect a service to have a employee data. It should have a employee data, or it should have a service which should handle all the operations on and around employee. It is called employee entity. Okay, just remember one thing. Be it a CAPM, be it RAP, be it CDS, be it SEGW, be it any OData service. In SAP, okay, OData service follows the concept of REST API. Okay, REST API, and REST API always follows the concept of a EDM data model. And EDM is nothing but a entity data model. It is nothing but a EDM concept it follows, entity data model. It means your service would be what? You can think of a service as a aggregation of a entities. These entities would be nothing but a set of resources, right? So service would be aggregation of entities, and entity would be set of resources. Now let's just say if I want to define a employee perfectly, how I can define my employee perfectly? For me to define an employee perfectly, I would need an employee master. I would need, let's just say if he's belonging to a department, then I can't have a dedicated department created for a single employee. I can also have one department master where all the department which are there in my organization would be listed, saying there is a IT department, there is a electrical department, there is a cloud department, n number of departments would be there. If I do have a 50 employees, or let's just say I do have a odd 10 employees, then they would be connected to one or other department. For 11 employee, I can expect, okay, there would be one or two odd department to which they would be belonging to. Perfect. So those all the set of data, I can consider it as a part of my data model. Okay. So what we would need for generation of a CAPM project, let's just start from the right to left. So if I have a application where I do have an employee registry, which is showing me the name, mail ID. Okay, it is showing me the department. I would need at least, if I don't think about a master data of department as well, then at least I would need an employee entity. So a service, you all would have seen any show one or another service, right? OData service, a simple OData service. What does it contain? That it contains a service name. It contains all the entity. Entity would contain a property. It contain a service. Service would have an entity. Entity would have properties. Right? This same architecture would be there when it comes to this block of on the right hand side. Okay, so there would be a service which this UI application would be communicating to. They don't care what is the data model it is built upon. Perfect. So this is my UI application, and this is how it would be connecting to this particular service, because it would be connecting to my SRV. Now, second point, for this employee entity to work, let's just say someone is saying I want to enroll, or let's just say create a new employee. I want to change an employee, saying Sumit, who is over here, I want to change it. Okay, so I can think of this as a change functionality. And at least there should be some sort of data available in this application. Then only I'll be able to do those sort of changes. So those all the data can be either available in the CAPM project. Here also I can build my own table, right? So either there can be a table which would be storing the data of this employee, or in the world of MTA, I talk about some sort of a outside world, that there is a centralized data container. Centralized data container who is having an employee table, and there is just a view. There is just a view. Okay, let's just say, which is having a linkage with this employee table. Then they can directly fetch the data from here and directly pass it on to the service. This is also possible. Either I can have a CAPM project who is storing the data in its relevant container. One thing is, all the backend application would have a data container linked to it. So either I can have a CAPM project responsible for that, or I can have a separate container who is responsible for storing the data. All we need is a data and we want to play around it. That's the only motive we do have over here. Okay, it means we would have a two block for me to not, I mean, for us not to complicate this too much, and let's just start with it. So what we would be doing is we would be generating a sample project. As a part of this project, we would be going with a first scenario where we would have everything available over here. Then we would try to break it down. We would try to break it down, saying we would be moving the data to a centralized data container. Till that time, we would have a dedicated data container for CAPM project. Okay, and we would be having this all the things in a HANA client. Okay, so for me to generate my first CAPM project, you are in the business application studio. You can go with the template, but let's just first learn the concept. Let's just say when I was in a college and I want to learn my Java coding, I could have gone with my NetBeans. I could have gone with my let's just say multiple development SDKs were also there. But if you go with a notepad, then you would find, okay, I'm going step by step, so I know the concepts. I'm not skipping something which is already getting generated. So for you to actually generate a project from the start, you have to go terminal by terminal. So you have to go something which is CLI based, command line interface. BTP gives you a BTP BS gives you a command line interface. So here I'll be going in new terminal. It would generate a terminal. Okay, and you would be able to generate any sort of project over here. I'll just say if I want to open a workspace, what it is saying here, I do have a project. In the user, there are projects. In the projects, you can have anything. Okay, so let's just say if you see what I did is I went into my file. I just say open workspace because I want all my project to be there somewhere, right? So I was in a project. I see, okay, in the user, I do have a projects. So in the projects, I can start creating all of my project. So I can say CD projects. This is nothing but your normal command prompt, CMD command prompt. It's the same thing. For me to generate my first CAP project, I can say CDS init. Init means initialize. For me to generate my first CAP project, I'll just say CDS init and name of the project. Here I'll just say, let's just say BTP backend employee. Okay, so it's a backend service for employee that I am generating on the BTP based platform. I'll just say enter. If you see, it just says creating a new CAP project and it just got generated. Okay, now if I want to open that particular folder, I'll just say open folder. And here in the project, I am able to find this. Or let's just open this as only. So it would be easy for us. I can say I want to see all the projects. It would reload this environment. Now, can you see? I do have my project getting generated. What I did is I just did nothing but I just generated my first project. I am in a projects. Now let me just go to the CD. If I press tab, it would say BTP BE employee is the only one. So this is the particular project that I just generated. This is my first project. Here, what all modules are there? This app is for UI, but I'll just say keep everything modularized. SAP has a feasibility, it has a capability, it allows you to generate everything and anything in a single place. Database, backend service, UI application, but don't go with that. You would ultimately end up mashing everything up. Better, just keep everything segregated. So this block is something that we would not be using very more. I mean, we would be using it very less. The database is there, service is there. What we were saying over here is we have this two block. So we do have now our structure. We are in this project in the package.json. So let's just understand this project has this VS code and BF. Forget about it. It's not of our interest for now. What is of our interest over here is DB. It's empty. SRV is empty. We would be creating everything from scratch. CDS SRC JSON ideally is a registry which would keep on generating. So this is a workspace based project. Here, two kinds of files are there. If you monitor it, or let's just say if I try to zoom it, I try to
Sumit,
yeah,
sorry to interrupt. Actually, this is actually an MTA application only, right? We are creating.
yeah, empty application only. So every
Okay.
application, backend, database, and UI, all the applications that we would be generating, we would be going with MTA base only, because I guess that is a new future. I guess you are already working, so you can also confirm. So MTA based application has a more liberty while connecting to the
Yeah.
external resources.
Okay.
Okay.
Because mostly I have checked. I mean, I have completely worked in a single project. I mean, the working with the DB SRV. I was not knowing whether we can separate it and call this right. I mean, separately we can create a UI and the service can be separately called also, right? From a different project altogether.
Yeah, right. It can be called, but yeah, I guess your background is mostly belonging to UI development, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess this sort of project interface you would be more familiar with, because I guess web app and everything, it's also kind of project based, repository based development only.
Correct. Yeah.
It's this kind of same thing. Okay. So let's just say there are two kind of files. For those belonging to backend, there's something which is starting with dot. Those are called hidden files. So mostly we would be doing changes in those files very less. I mean, we won't be interfering with those files very much. In case git ignore is something, I mentioned that we would be using a development strategy in a way that more than one developer can work. For more than one developer to work, we have to keep on pushing our change on the GitHub. And in case few things are something, those would get generated. Let's just say some sort of internal generated files or something that we don't want to share.